Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about producing an uneven bow speed in order to get an even sound from frog to tip. So we'll be using the second theme in Saint-Saëns Concerto, Saint-Saëns number 1, A minor, to demonstrate this. But before we do that, we're just going to talk a little bit about the bow using an open string. And of course, on the cello, we have the most advantage when we are closest to our hand. We have the best leverage. We have our arm weight available to us, whereas at the tip, we have to use more torque to get the kind of pressure on the tip, at the tip of the bow that we can get very easily at the frog. So if we just let the bow, the natural physics of the bow take over, we would get something like this, drawing an even bow speed with even effort. Crescendo towards the frog and a decrescendo towards the tip. If that's what we're doing in the music, then that works great, but mostly it's not what we're doing, and oftentimes we're even crescendoing towards the tip. But if we're just talking about producing an even sound over the bow, the first thing we would learn is distributing the bow evenly, over the bow speed evenly, into quarters. Let's say if we're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, dividing my bow into 4 equal parts. In that scenario, with an even bow speed, I have to put a little more effort into it near the upper half to keep my sound, just to stay even, right? I have to push a little harder as I get away from my hand, and I can't any longer use this arm weight. Less and less becomes available as we get to the tip, right? So 2, 3, 4, I'm pushing harder to mimic the amount of natural weight that we have in the lower half. One way around this is purposely drawing a slower bow in the lower half and a faster bow in the upper half. Here's what that looks like. So we're going to have something more like a bow division that is 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth quarter of my bow is going to be more like the upper third, something like this, increasing the speed towards the tip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And this goes back to the principle that it's easier to do slow bow changes at the frog. At the tip, that can be awkward. Kind of feels like we're hanging on to the sound. And conversely, fast bow changes at the frog can be awkward because of our whole arm having to move. And at the tip, it's a little more comfortable to just fire from the elbow. Quick bow changes are pretty easy. The frog, that feels a little awkward sometimes, kind of carrying the whole arm, right? At the tip, it's not awkward at all. It's kind of like that, right? So this technique of sort of using more bow through the upper portion, faster bow speed, is particularly beneficial the smaller of a person you are. Someone who's built longer, tall person with long arms, their mechanical advantage at the tip is actually pretty good still. They're not fully extended, like I pretty much am extended at the tip, right? I'm about 5'10" with not especially long arms, maybe a little shorter than average arms for my height. Um, and someone smaller than me, many cellists I'm sure are really, especially at the A string, having to fully extend at the tip. Someone like a Piatigorsky, a Lynn Harrell, um, yeah, these bigger guys with long arms at the tip of the bow, they might still have some bend in their arm. For them, the tip is like me playing here, right? So they're still pretty strong at the tip. So this technique wouldn't be as important maybe for someone who's bigger with long arms, because they're still pretty powerful at the tip. Um, I'll link a video below of I first started really noticing this approach in studying Rachmaninoff Sonata, and one of the recordings I was listening to was Natalia Gutman. Great recording, I'll link it below. And she really capitalizes on the slow bow at the frog idea. She has a sort of a shorter build. She's really reaching at the tip, but she is a master of pulling a slow bow at the frog and maintaining a lot of sound, and she's just using her body to her advantage at that point, and minimizing the disadvantages at the tip. So okay, first way to get into this is to just sort of reinforce the idea that slow bow changes at the frog are our friend. And at the bridge too, because we have a slow bow. So just get comfortable with a few of those, and then I'll come up off the bridge a little bit, and I'll go back and forth at the tip, a faster bow speed. I don't have to crank so much to keep my sound alive if I keep my bow speed up here. So essentially, this technique is merging these two ideas. With basically an even acceleration through the upper half, where I come through the bow change fast. And I kind of come off the bridge to do it, and then I come back to the bridge. Here's what it looks like. Once I start speeding up, I come all the way through the tip. I don't get stuck at the tip and do this. I'm not doing the same thing twice. I'm not doing this. Rather, once I get moving, and I kind of lean onto my left, it's a little counterintuitive. I'm not going with the bow, I'm going against it. And that kind of helps my body work almost like a coil or like a spring. Because when we get to this point of extension, we're kind of pulling our body apart. And when I come through, almost like pulling on a slingshot or something, it kind of bounces me back through the tip a little bit. It's this idea, and we can practice that just in the upper half. And this can be subtle. I'm not suggesting that every time you get to the tip of the bow, you lean off of your chair. But just having a little bit of the momentum going the right way can kind of use it's using your body to your advantage. You're not fighting against your body. So once I start speeding up, I come through the bow change at the tip. I'm kind of aiming for once I pass the middle, I'm aiming to get back towards the middle. Off the bridge a little bit. If I don't do that, the sound might break if my bow speed gets too fast, too close to the bridge, right? So I'll lose the sound, I'll pop out of the string, right? I need to come up. I mean, sometimes just a centimeter off of the bridge can make a huge difference in the bow speed that it will allow for, you know? metronome involved here. How about 72? We're going to do 4 clicks per bow. First, let's just go totally even bow. I'm just going to play in a neutral spot here, somewhere between the fingerboard and bridge, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2. That was a totally even bow speed. 4 sections of bow. Now I'm going to do something more like 1, 2, 3, 4, where the upper half of the bow is most of the bow. In order to do this, you do want to be comfortable drawing a slow bow near the bridge for sure, at the frog. Let me show you this in a scale perhaps. I'm going to go to 60. This will be a 4 to a bow scale. I do Galamian scales. First I'll do some of an even bow speed. Here's how it looks, saving at the frog and then moving through the upper half. As I mentioned, I want to get into a little bit of this second theme here, Saint-Saëns concerto. Half notes and quarter notes, and it's cut time, but it's basically 4/4. So this is a good simple math situation. First I'll play the theme with an even bow speed, right? So incorporate this idea of saving at the frog, I'll try to exaggerate it here, and it helps us. Oftentimes the miss that we make, especially in lyrical stuff, and sometimes it feels like we're being very expressive when we start with a big down bow at the frog, and oftentimes our vibrato is kicking in on that first down bow note, right? It might feel good to do that, but we lose a lot of the line when we get rid of a bunch of bow. We have 4 more, or 3 more half notes to play before we're back at the frog. So to me, like phrasing to the middle of this 2-measure group of notes, right? I find that it helps find a longer musical line, and through the quarter notes as well. You can kick that sforzando and then go back into that same idea after the kick and then drop. And that'll look like this, yeah? Yeah, I hope that helps. Again, slow at the frog, nearer the bridge. A little more speed at the tip. Then just on an open string with this acceleration through the tip. Once it gets going, you're already thinking of coming back. It also often points out the interval between two notes, or the connection between two notes, rather than just thinking of the notes themselves. On down bows, it's very easy to lose the connection from one note to the next. And in this instance in particular, we've had all this chromatic scale and this chromatic figure. It's nice to hear a big interval all of a sudden, isn't it? That space opening up with the introduction to this theme is like almost like a relief after all this chromatic material. And also in the next, after the sforzando, pointing out, we have a fifth here at first, right? Becomes a tritone. It's nice to hear that. If you were singing that, which I won't even try, you might have some, you'd feel that space. I think you'd have some version of a slide between those two notes to draw those notes together and have a more forward-looking musical line rather than simply a sforzando that just dips out to nowhere, you know? But rather pointing out the connection between the two notes, even after the sforzando. And then coming through with our up bow change.